Hi, I'm Lisa and welcome to my channel, The Southern Seamstress. If you're new to my channel, thanks for dropping by, and if you're a regular viewer, welcome back. I hope everyone had a nice April. I know we've had plenty of April showers here in Arkansas, and we're scheduled to have a few more days of rain before some clear skies. At the beginning of April, I did a video of what my plans were for the month, and I thought I had not really planned too much for the month. I knew I was going to be busy helping my son move into his new place, and we also had some company staying with us for a few days, but it was even more busy than I realized. I had only made plans to make 2 garments, but I'd kind of forgotten that April is a big month for me as a gardener. I've always loved to sew, but since I was a little girl, I've always been a gardener. I grew up in a rural area, and each year my parents would plant a big garden. Now, one of the things that my siblings and I got to do was to weed that garden, and it had so many weeds in it. So I really didn't enjoy gardening as a child. But when I became an adult and had my own garden, I just have always really enjoyed it. I love working with dirt and getting my hands dirty. One reason you never see me with a manicure is because of my love for gardening. I do try to wear gloves sometimes, but a lot of times I forget and I'm just pulling weeds or digging the dirt with my bare hands. So years ago, I gave up trying to have pretty polished nails. So I have got most of my plants planted. I love to grow vegetables, fruits, and flowers. For some of my vegetables and flowers, I will plant seeds, but other times I'll just buy the plants that have already been started. For flowers, I've always loved roses and had a big variety. I always love to have a fresh bouquet in my kitchen all summer long. But this year I've decided to add dahlias to my collection. I've never really grown dahlias that much. I've always thought of them as being kind of a bushy flower that wasn't really good for bouquets. But I've been following a few people on Instagram. I think they have flower farms, and they've specialized in dahlias and zinnias, and they just have made the prettiest bouquets with them. So I purchased from my online company, I think about 16 dahlia bulbs, and then I got a couple locally, and then I grew a few from seeds. So I have put in 3 new raised flower beds in my front yard, and in 2 of them I have planted dahlias, and in the other one I've got a mixture of dahlias and zinnias. So I'm really excited to see those plants start growing and having blooms on them. As for my garden, I've got all my seeds or plants planted. I usually do a variety of vegetables. I have big tomatoes, little tomatoes, cucumbers. Got 2 kinds of okra planted. In the southern part of the United States, okra is kind of a necessity, and I've always loved okra. I love to fry it, boil it, but I don't boil it to where it's slimy, just to where it's tender. And I also started like roasting it in the oven last year, and I really like that. So I've got that. I've got bush beans, pole beans, beets. My husband really started liking beets last year because he found out that they help lower your blood pressure, and he's always had problems with high blood pressure. So I have a whole row of beets planted, and then a variety of peppers that we can cook with, and a few herbs also. For fruit, I have blueberry bushes, fig trees, a few strawberry plants, and some watermelons that are a small variety. I think they're called sugar babies. They get to about 6 to 8 pounds. Last year I also decided I wanted some citrus trees. Of course, here in Arkansas it's too cold in the winter to leave citrus planted outside in the ground, so I got some that you could put in pots. So I have a clementine, a lemon, something that's like caramandine, something like that has little baby looking oranges. Plus I also have 2 miniature banana trees. Now I had to bring all these pots into my sunroom that's off my kitchen this winter, so it was kind of like a jungle in there. Had all those plants, had all my orchids, and then a few other random plants. But now all those trees are back outside on the patio, so we've got room to walk now in the house. My lemon tree last year had a lot of blooms, but only had one lemon that stuck, and I didn't realize that it takes months and months and months for a lemon to mature. I think I first saw the lemon growing in April, and I think it had one lemon, and we picked it, I think, in like October. And I sliced that lemon into a bunch of little slices, and each time I'd have a glass of iced tea, I'd put a slice or two. So I stretched that lemon out for like a week. But I just noticed on my lemon tree this week that it looks like it's got at least 4 lemons that are going to be maturing. So I'm really excited about that. So that's kind of an update on my garden. So let me know in the comments below if you too love sewing and gardening. And if so, let me know what you like to grow the best. So if you hear a little noise in the background, that's probably my husband out mowing. I thought he was going to do it earlier today before I started filming. But his battery was dead on the lawnmower and he had to charge it, so now he's out mowing. But I think he's mostly going to be in the backyard, and my sewing room faces the front. So like I said, my April was even busier than I thought it was going to be. Of the 2 sewing projects that I had planned, I only got the first one finished. But before I get started talking about that, I'll just mention what I'm wearing is a me-made item. It's a little t-shirt top, color block top that I made last, I think, spring. It was one of my first videos that I talked about it, and it is McCall 7600. The fabric was some cotton knit from Spoonflower, and I still really love these prints. I really like this pattern, and I was thinking when I put this top on this morning that I really do like it, and I plan to make it again. Now the pattern I did get made up in April is a free pattern by Unfettered, and it's this pleated sleeve cardigan. This cardigan was one of the patterns I had in my Make 9 video for 2024 earlier this year. I also mentioned this pattern in a video last fall that featured 13 free patterns that I would like to make in the winter months. This pattern comes in sizes extra extra small to extra extra large, which is a bust range of 33.5 inches to 48 inches. Now my measurements fell into the size extra small, but I wanted to have a little more ease. I wanted to be able to wear the sweater over a top and not just as a top like the model in the picture. So I sized up to a small. The pattern calls for using a fine sweater knit or a ponte knit. Now the fabric I used is a fine merino wool jersey that I had bought last year from the sewing studio. Now I was a little concerned about using this fabric because even though it calls for a fine sweater knit, this is, I would say, a very fine knit. It's almost a little see-through if you put it up to the light. But I thought it would be good for like spring months because it is lightweight, so it wouldn't be super hot, but it is merino wool, so it does give some warmth to it. Now, if you're not familiar with Unfettered Patterns, their sewing instructions are pretty minimal, basically just line items, and they do not have diagrams. This certain pattern has 9 line items, and I had read through all of those before I decided to make it to kind of make sure I understood what it was talking about and to see if I thought I would have any problems, and it seemed pretty straightforward. I will say if you've made any knit projects, t-shirts, cardigans, that I don't think you will have any problems making this one. I did make a couple of changes for this pattern. I guess the most major one was that the pattern comes in only short sleeves. And I wanted a long sleeves because if I was going to wear it as a cardigan, I wanted to be able to cover up my arms. Because I'm pretty cold-natured and I really like to take a long sleeves with me when I know I'm going to be somewhere where it's air conditioned. So making it into long sleeves was fairly simple. I just took the sleeve pattern, which is this top section right here, and then I just taped some tracing paper below it to extend it. When I saw the pleated sleeves on this pattern, it sort of reminded me of the pleated sleeves on Fibre Mood's Airelle top that I had done last fall. And in their pattern, they only had a short sleeve version also, and I had made that into long sleeves. I like the way those sleeves had come out. So I got that pattern piece out to see what the width was on the bottom of that sleeve, because I knew the bottom portion of the sleeves would be about the same. So I took the width of the pattern piece from Fibre Mood's pattern that I had made, and I just tapered the very top of the sleeve under the arm here, this side. I just tapered it down to the width of that pattern that I had previously made. And then I just laid it up to my shoulder to see how long I wanted to make it. And I tried to give it just a little bit extra length because I wasn't sure how far it was going to extend over the shoulder. Now the Fibre Mood one extends, I thought, more than this one. So I knew it probably needed to be longer than that other sleeve pattern. So that was the most major change of this pattern. Another thing on this pattern was the pleats itself. On the Fibre Mood, it just has a pleat going to each side of from the center to on the shoulder. But this one has two little pleats on each side of the shoulder, so 4 altogether. Now, on their instructions, it said to follow the arrows on the top on folding your pleats and placing them over. And on their pattern, they have the pleats going towards the middle. But whenever I've done pleats like on a shoulder before, the pleats have always gone away from the center. So I did change that. My pleats go from the middle of the sleeve to the sides of the sleeves rather than the other way. Cause I thought that might look a little strange, or maybe it's just because I'm not used to it, but I did change the direction of the pleats. For this pattern, I used both my serger and my regular sewing machine. The only problem I really had making this was not the pattern itself, it was just the fabric that I chose. This little jersey knit tends to roll on the edges, and it only has, I think it has a 1 centimeter seam allowance, which is about a 3/8 inch. And so when I would put the two layers together, they would try to roll, so I was trying to, keep those smoothed out. And I particularly had problems when I was serging it, when I would get to the end of the seam and I couldn't hold on to the fabric. Sometimes it wanted to go to the left of the serger so that the seam allowance wasn't quite as big as it was supposed to be. So since I was having that problem, when I got to this band that goes all the way around the front and the neck, I went ahead, after I pinned it, I sewed it first on my regular sewing machine. That also helped me get the bottom edge of this band and this band together fairly straight. I think if I'd just done it on a serger, it might not have come together as well. So before you put this band on, you have to do this bottom band, and I didn't do it on the regular sewing machine first. I did it on the serger, and because of the rolling, I don't think it came out consistently the same width all the way around, because when I was measuring it, sometimes it was 2 1/4 wide, sometimes it was 2 1/2, so it's a little bit off. And if you look here, it looks like it's wider here than it is here, but I just tried to go back and make sure that this area was the same as this area and just not try to worry about the sides. So when you have it on, you can't really tell that if this little part here is exactly this width right here, but this is what's the most noticeable. So you do want to try to get this the same width on each side. Now, one thing I will change if I make this pattern again is this bottom band. I wanted to be able, like I said, to wear this over something and not necessarily have it buttoned up, but this band is pretty short, and so you really have to stretch it together in the sides and the back. Also, I didn't mention, but they call this a cropped cardigan, and I think it's made for someone 5'6". So I didn't want it to be, super cropped. I want it to come down a little longer, just maybe high hip length. So I did add 1 inch to the body, the length of this cardigan. And I was able to stretch it out, with no puckers. But if I was making it again, I would make this band longer so that it's not really pulled in, but there's no actual problem with the pattern itself because it is made to be this fullness pulled in, and it's made to be cropped and to wear like this. But if I make it again, I want it to be more relaxed around this area. So I probably would add maybe 3 or 4 inches to the band. That way it still, pulls it in. It'll still be shorter than the width of the actual cardigan, but it will be more relaxed right here. So anyway, I had this cardigan all made up and ready for the buttonholes, I think last weekend. Now the pattern calls for 4 buttons that are 2 centimeters or about 3/4 of an inch wide. When I had ordered this fabric, I had ordered some really pretty gray kind of shell or mother of pearl gray buttons, and I was thinking I could use those. I hadn't looked at them in a while. So when I took my buttons out, I noticed that they were bigger than I remembered because I think originally I had ordered these to go with a different cardigan pattern that has a wider button band on it. So the ones I had, they're really pretty and matched, but they were just as wide and almost maybe a fraction wider than this button band, and so I didn't think that would look right. So since I was in a hurry, I decided to go on Amazon and try to find some buttons that would work. And I found a set of gray mother of pearl buttons, and I think these buttons are really meant to be replacements for like a men's blazer jacket, because in the set you get 2 different sizes. You get 6 buttons, which are 20 millimeters, which is actually what this pattern calls for. And then I think you get 16 buttons that are 15 millimeters. So you get, I think, 22 buttons in all, and they are about $17. So I thought they were priced pretty well because you get quite a bit of buttons. So this is the 20 millimeter, which is actually what the pattern called for. And they are almost as wide as the button band here. And it called for 4, and that I think is what the model is wearing on her sweater. But this is the 15 millimeters, and I thought instead of using the 4 bigger ones, I would use 6 smaller ones. I kind of like the way that looked. Plus, if I was wearing this with just like a top with nothing under it, not as a cardigan, this would keep it from gapping and keep this area more closed. So that's what I did. I used 6 of these buttons. So my buttons came in a few days ago. Decided, of course, that I'm going to practice doing some buttonholes. I never go straight to my garment to make the buttonholes. I always want to practice on some scrap fabric. Now my sewing machine has a lot of different options for buttonholes, and they had one that was supposed to be for knit fabric. So I made a couple samples of that, and they just didn't look good. They looked really weird on the end. So I thought, okay, I'll just use a regular buttonhole. So I was starting to just kind of adjust that, and then my machine started stop. It would start a buttonhole, and then it would start, and it kept saying pull the buttonhole lever down, which yes, I do forget to do that sometimes, but I had the buttonhole lever down. So I put the buttonhole lever back up, I put it back down, and it kept doing this over and over again. I'm not sure, the sensor or something on it is off, because I would turn my machine off, I'd turn it on, I'd go away from the buttons, then go back to the buttonhole, and it kept telling me that same thing. And I tried to look on YouTube really quick for a solution, but the only thing they had, my machine is a Janome, and they had a video, but it was like, I think 9 years old, so it's some older model. And he was showing how to use a little screwdriver and adjust some kind of screw. Now my machine doesn't look exactly like that, and I thought I just don't have time to mess with that. So I thought I might use my little old Singer that sits behind me, that's about, I think about 22, 23 years old, but I have made a lot of buttonholes with it. But then I got the buttonhole foot out, and I can't remember exactly how it even went on the machine, exactly how you put the button in. So even though I had made tons of buttonholes in the past, it's been so many years since I did a buttonhole in that machine, I just couldn't remember quite how to do it correctly. And I had found my old manual, but it didn't really give very good instructions. So I thought, just forget that. So I thought, what am I going to do? I want to get this pattern, this cardigan completed. So what I decided was that I could get this cardigan on easily without unbuttoning it. So what I did was I just sewed my buttons on without any buttonholes. So there's no buttonholes. I don't know if you can tell that on camera, but there's no buttonholes on this sweater. So I just sewed them on. So I won't be probably using this as an open cardigan. I will be wearing it buttoned up since they are, you know, permanently attached. Now when I get my machine working again, I may go back and put buttonholes, or I may just wear it like this, especially since the way the sweater fits, it kind of fits more like a top. And also if you put this over something that's got any type of bulk, even if it's just a little bit, I don't think it really sits right. It doesn't really drape right. Now I could put it over like a thin camisole or tank top or a very thin t-shirt. It would look okay. And I probably will wear it over maybe like a thinner type camisole tank top because it does have this V-neck on it. And when I was in the middle of making this and having the problems with the curling edges, and when the buttonhole thing came up, I was really not liking this cardigan at all. But once I got it done and put it on my dress form and on me too, I did really like the way it turned out. I like the pleated sleeves. I like the fullness in the sleeves, and I like this little skinny button band. So here's the completed front, and then the back. So if you're looking for a cardigan with a fitted bottom band, you can make the pattern just as is. But if you don't like that, I think just adding maybe 3 to 4 inches, so that this would be a couple inches wider and then this side would be a couple inches wider. And you could always lengthen it to give it more of just a normal average cardigan look. Also, you could widen this button band some, I think, if you wanted to, and it wouldn't cause any problems. I also think you can make this out of just more of a cotton knit and do the short sleeve version and keep it buttoned up, and that would be cute for summer. But all in all, even though I had a few problems when I was making this pattern, I do really like the way it turned out, and there's certainly no problem with the pattern, and I think it's well drafted and all the pieces come together well. So if you're thinking about making this cardigan, I think if you just think out everything ahead of time, the length, the sleeves, the tightness of the bottom band, and adjust for any changes that you want to make beforehand, I think you'll really like this cardigan. So that completes the third pattern from my Make 9 2024 list. So I'm really excited about that because I've got a third of the patterns made, and I made it in the first third of the year. So that gives me 2/3 of the year to make the other 2/3 patterns. Now I don't know if the next garment I make will be off the Make 9. I do want to get that Olivia blouse made by Atelier Jupe. I had actually printed that pattern out, and I was in the middle of taping it together, but I never finished getting it all taped together. When I was getting to like the third line of patterns, I don't know, something didn't look like it was matching up correctly. But I think I was talking to someone while I was doing it, so that's probably why I was having problems with it. So I'm going to go back, try to get that pattern at least taped together and ready to cut out. From that Make 9 video, I definitely want to get that tiered skirt from either Simplicity or McCall's made. Now that's a printed pattern, so I won't have to put anything together, and that always makes things go a little bit faster. So I will probably try to get that skirt made up soon because it's going to go with a lot of different tops I'm going to be making this summer. Besides my cardigan, I did get a couple of items made that I'm going to be using for my Operation Christmas Child shoe boxes. I'm making several new items for my boxes this year. and I am going to be sharing those patterns in a future video. Hopefully by the end of May, I'll be ready to share that video. Getting those items ready for that video, I guess, is my main sewing goal for May. I do plan to make several knit t-shirt type tops soon. I do have several pretty prints that I got from Stone Mountain and Daughter early this year. I have a few knit prints coming in from Minerva. I did have a style art pattern that's a color block t-shirt that I didn't have any fabric for, so Minerva had a sale the other day, so I purchased a few cotton knit prints, and then also a few canvas type prints that I'm going to be using in my shoebox gifts. I really love to make knit garments because they do seem to go up a little bit faster than woven patterns, and they also a lot of times have fewer pattern pieces. And sometimes when I've got a lot going on in life, I just want to be able to make something quick, but that's also cute, and that will give me a sense of accomplishment. So that wraps it up for today's video. I'm not sure when my next one will be. It seems like I always have a lot going on outside during the summer, and we also like to take more little trips and spend more time away from home. But I do hope to have, at least 1 or 2 videos a month to stay connected with everyone. If you enjoyed this video, I would love for you to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button. And also, if you're a gardener, don't forget to let me know what you like to grow the best and how your garden's coming along this year. Until I see you in the next video, take care and happy sewing.